Hi, I'm Alex, back again with another little video. This one is about spooks and surgery and other things. And I'm going back to the early 2000s or thereabouts. One of my kids at the age of 8 getting their tonsils out. Well, they both had their tonsils out at the same age, 2 years apart. And yes, this particular day waiting in the hospital in the little room for the doctor to be ready for us to do surgery. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I smell cigarette smoke really strong. And you're not allowed to smoke in hospitals, and certainly not in Canberra. Going back to, well, I think the 1990s, I think they banned smoking in hospitals. And yeah, so I'm sitting here and I'm smelling this smoke, and I say to my husband, "Geez, somebody's smoking in here." And he goes, "You're not allowed to smoke in hospitals." And I said, "I know that." So yeah, it was so strong, like it was as if the person was in the room, standing next to me smoking. I hate cigarettes. And next thing, after I go up and have a look around, and there's absolutely no one there. And of course, even checking the bathroom in the little ward type room that we were in, of course there wouldn't be anyone in there. But stupidly goes for a look. Of course it's empty. Then in comes the nurse and says, "Okay, we're ready for surgery now." So they wheel his little bed down to the operating theatre, and I walk with them till he's put under. Walks back to the room, sits down, and there's that smell of smoke again, really strong. And I said to my husband, "It's back again. It's really strong, just like before." And he said, "I don't smell a thing." And he couldn't the last time either. And then it dawned on me, oh gosh, this is one of my aunts in spirit. As I had to say to him, "I know who this is. This is my aunt, and my mum's youngest sister, and she died at the age of 40. That would have been about 1981 that she died, and she died in Scotland. I was living in Sydney at that time, and she was a heavy smoker, very heavy smoker, but she was born deaf mute, and she had numerous operations on her ears, nose and throat to see if they could get her to be able to hear or speak. None of it worked. It was just a waste of time. I don't think even with today's technology they would be able to do anything either. But yeah, she watched over my son in spirit through that. And there's been a thing with me since I was very young. I always thought, because this particular aunt had no life whatsoever, and she couldn't communicate using sign language either, because back in the day when she was school age, it would mean having to go to a school in Edinburgh, when we lived on the west coast, and my gran and grandpa were a little bit worried about her taking the bus every day to Edinburgh and back again. They should have let her do it. Hindsight's a wonderful thing though, but it was appalling that there was no school in our side of the country that could have helped her learn sign language. So we did in the house sign language, but it was very limited. So yeah, it was very hard to communicate. She doesn't have that problem in spirit now, because that's a physical world thing. What happens in the physical world stays in the physical world, and spirit beings, they talk, I guess you could say, like almost like telepathically, because the mouth doesn't necessarily move when they're communicating with you, especially communicating with a clairvoyant. I'm hearing and feeling what they're saying, but I don't see the lips moving usually. In fact, the vast majority of the people I see in spirit, the lips aren't moving, but I'm hearing them on a telepathic level as they communicate. Anyhow, back to the story. I worked out who this was in spirit that was there, realising that it wasn't some physical being person walking around having a smoke and then hiding. Wasn't the case. And then went on to the teenage years, and my kids were both having oral surgery. They were getting braces, but there was a couple of problems with some of the teeth that weren't coming through properly, so they had to have this corrective surgery done before the braces went on. And the periodontist was very laid back, and he knew what I did for a living. And as soon as we got into the room to start the surgery, he said, are we alone or do we have company? And I said, oh, we have company. We've got my grand from my mother's side, an aunt and an uncle that died. Oh, I think my uncle died 1990, just weeks before my first baby was born. And he was, of course, over in Scotland. So none of my mum's side of the family came to Australia to live. Their ancestry, they went over to America, early 20th century, and some of them stayed there, others came back to Scotland. Anyhow, this surgery, as it was going on, my grandmother was giving me a full running commentary of this as this surgery. I don't remember how long it went for. It might have been about an hour, maybe not quite as long as that. But she's giving the full running commentary, and I'm telling the periodontist, oh, she said this, and this, and he's nodding his head and saying, yeah, that's right. It's almost as if she was right up in his face watching everything he's doing, except she's standing right next to me, saying, far back. And then as it came towards the end of the surgery, she said, oh, you've got about 5 minutes left, and then it'll all be done, you can go home. And I thought, wow. And I thought, okay, do I tell him this? And I did. And he says, yeah, she's right. And yeah, never underestimate spirit. They just know stuff. You don't need an Encyclopedia Britannica or Google, just ask spirit. So yeah, she just rattled off all this information to me. My other relatives in spirit didn't say anything. They were just there for moral support, I guess. But then again, just thinking about it now, the more people in spirit that are around, the energy helps to amplify the power for someone to deliver a message. And the same in our world. That's like why they had seances. Mind you, most of them were a load of rubbish back in the old days. You need a few people around you to lend their energy to help facilitate the mediumship. Other times, depending on the individual medium at any given time, if they've got enough energy and their mind's just so relaxed, that message will just come straight through, clear as anything. Other times you can struggle with it because people are busy doing things in their everyday life, and then suddenly there's someone at your shoulder, tap, tap, tap. Oh, can I tell you this? You know, sometimes you've got other things on your mind and it can just put the frequency out and you might not hear it as well. Other times, as I said, clear as bell, you know, it just straight through, no hiccups whatsoever. Sometimes it's just down to your luck, I think. But anyhow, yes, those times the information came through with great clarity. And at one stage, actually, I was practicing automatic writing, which I don't actually really approve of. I just had a little crack at it to see if I could do it. This is, oh gosh, maybe about 2005, 2006. And my grandmother came through and she was wearing one of those high-vis vests, and she said to me, I'm your linesman for just now. And, you know, like on a railway line. And I had a picture of my grandmother and grandfather up on the wall in the room that I was using at the time in my house, and I'd taken it down for some reason, and my grandpa said, will you put it back up? I went, oh yeah, okay. Fair enough. Up it went. And it's the same picture that my granny and grandpa always had in their bedroom, and it sat above the dressing table in the bedroom. And it was actually two separate photos. There were passport photos that they'd taken to photographers, got them enlarged and put together into one picture, and I've got it sitting in my cabinet right next to me here. And a few people have commented about it being unusual, and explained to me, yes, there was actually two passport photos. And I think the picture of my grandpa there might have been about 27 or 28, and he was a lot older than my gran. And I think when they get married, Gran would have been about 18 or 19, I'm not sure. I'd have to go and have a look at some of my family tree stuff to find that out, but that's not really important anyway. But yes, Gran was able to say, while doing this automatic writing, I could start hearing her, put the picture back up. So I said, okay. And I had this old Art Deco dressing table. I've got a thing for Art Deco. and I actually still have a Art Deco dressing table that I use every day. But this is another one that I had in my room before I started changing things. And this picture, I actually had it sitting on the wall just above it. And when I was just looking at it, and I thought, my God, that's exactly like how my gran had hers. And also the bedroom door opened onto it somehow, not touching it, but the wall was there and the door was here. So yeah, if you opened the door, it kind of shielded the dressing table. I guess you could say like privately, but that wasn't the intention. And the room that I was in to do readings, I've moved room 3 times in the house for different reasons, and you know, kids want to use a different room. And when I was in this particular room, the dressing table sat adjacent to the door, and I thought, what's the chances of that? You know, it's just life's little mysteries. Yes, but this gran has come through quite a few times to deliver a message. Um, the other grandmother, she doesn't come through that often. Sometimes I'll see her, but usually it's in dream form that she comes through. My grandfather on my dad's side of the family, he'll pop in from time to time, and he always smoked a pipe, so he'd hold it in this funny fashion, cock his head to the side, and sometimes I see him wearing one of those traditional flat caps that old men used to wear in Britain back in the day. I don't know if they still do, but my grandpa would always come in and I'd see him cock the head to the side. I can't do it because I've got a neck injury, but he'd cock his head to the side and give a little nod of approval. And I'm thinking, oh wow, you know, like he doesn't generally have a lot to say, and he doesn't come through in my dreams much, but my grandmother does from time to time. And yeah, there's only certain relatives that do come through, and it's because they have something to say, or they've been assigned guardian roles, you know, like a spirit guide. So, but it's interesting, it's something I always appreciate. Another thing I want to talk about actually is back in 2009 I went to Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock, and I went with my husband's workmates. The management had given them a reward for exceptionally good work that they were doing in an important project. So there's about 10 of us that went. The employees plus their spouses went for a week staying at a resort in the middle of Australia, desert. It was an amazing experience. I knew it was going to be spiritual. I knew something was going to happen there before I even had my bag packed. And it was one of the highlights of my life, because when we were there, we went on a tour, and with this lovely young Aboriginal tour guide, and I think they work with the Environment and Tourist Board. I don't remember the right title for the government department, but they have their tour guides, even here in Canberra, to look after national parks and whatnot. So this particular area we were going into was in a national park, but it was a sacred part of the park for Aboriginal people for centuries, until the white settlers came. And of course we were going into it a bit where it's for what they call secret men's business, and so the women had their own areas that men didn't go to, and the Aboriginal men had their area that women didn't go to. So here's us all trekking in, and it's about October 2009 or thereabouts, and we were going there, and we're used to the cold weather in Canberra. They had 19 degrees that day and they thought it was freezing, and we're all going, turn the heating off on the tour bus, and those guys are thinking it's like there'll be polar bears on the street. They need to come to Canberra, that's cold. Anyhow, we get out into this park and we're walking along, and then this elderly gentleman in spirit came across, and traditional Aboriginal man, grey hair, and he had his big spear with him, and he said, "You're not supposed to be here, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Look, we're in our timeline, we're in the 21st century, and the tour guide has invited us in here, but we've been told that it's sacred ground, don't touch anything, don't do anything, only observe. And I said, look, we're here with respect, and we won't do anything we shouldn't do. We will respect the rules. And then this man nodded his head, and he went to speak to some other men in the group, other elders, and then came back to us and said, okay, but we'll stick around to make sure that you behave yourselves. And I said, that's fine by us, and thank you for the privilege too. And they watched over what we were doing, and I'd actually relayed to the tour guide what was being said, and that really blew him away. But when we were leaving, these lovely men stood around in a circle and they sang, and then there was a smoking ceremony, and they sang to us, and then they thanked us for being here, and I thanked them for the honour of being able to see them and participate. And then we left, and as we're walking back to our little bus to go to some other area, I was talking to the young tour guide, and I said, oh, your grandmother's here. And she's showing me these knitted dolls, like, you know, the ones you'll see in women's magazines, especially British magazines, how to make a scarecrow, a Santa, it was like bananas and pyjamas and all that sort of stuff, Fireman Sam. Well, this young man's grandmother used to knit these for him as a child, and when I told him this, he couldn't believe it. He was just absolutely stunned, and he said, yes, that's right. Something happened in his kitchen, something to do with the kitchen sink, and she was telling me about this to tell him that she knows about that. And this guy was blown away. He just, what's the chances of this happening when you go to work, you know? And it was just such an honour to be able to pass on those messages and see the happiness, you know, on both parts, for his grandmother and for the young man himself. I don't remember his name. I did give him a business card if he ever wanted to get in touch with me, so that's up to him. He can find me if he remembers me. But it was such an awesome experience. It's special, and that's the spiritual heart of Australia when you go out to Uluru. And when you go on to any of the sacred grounds there, be respectful. People still want to climb Uluru. I'm dead set against that. There was an offer for people that, in our tour group, if they wanted to do it or not, but the tour guides said, look, we don't like it, but it's your choice. And straight away my husband and I said, there's no way on earth we're doing that. That's like climbing a church. That would be just downright rude. So we declined that. We said it's just nice to have a look at it and take a couple of pictures. And just as well, I don't like heights, but there's no way on earth I would be so disrespectful to spirit and to the Aboriginal people. You just don't do that, you know. So but it was such an awesome experience, and it was a two-way gift, because it wasn't just me being able to see and hear these things and then relaying it to the people with me. The people in spirit were able to see me and relay information backwards and forwards, so it's a two-way experience. So it was just nice to be able to share that with people living and, well, to me, people in the spirit world, they're still living. They're not dead. They're just not in a physical body. But that memory, that consciousness is still there. So it was a two-way experience. And then a few years ago, I was at the Botanical Gardens here in Canberra. It's one of my favourite haunts, actually, if you pardon the pun. And I was out at the very back end, between where the Botanical Gardens comes to an end and the CSIRO property begins, and that's got a lot of land round about the building as well. And I'm walking along there and gotten a little bit off the track and thought, oh God, where am I? And I look up, and through the wire fence I could see a little Aboriginal girl and then a group of women as it slowly came into focus, and she's getting her hair done up, and she turns around to her grandmother and saying, she can see me. And the grandmother's like, shush kid, you know. We always see those people coming and going, so they knew about the tourists going round about the gardens. They probably didn't have that concept of tourists, because I don't know how far back in time I'm actually looking as I'm seeing the people in spirit. and again there was a group of women here and a group of men over there. It was winter time, and the same in my timeline, it was still winter. So they had their fires lit and they were dressed warm. I didn't really notice their clothes too much, what they were wearing, but I knew it was winter time too, and they had their campfires there for warmth. But yeah, the impression was that, oh, we're used to seeing people in other worlds, which is basically another dimension or timeline. So yeah, they were quite used to this. They weren't at all surprised. Not as surprised as I was. Like, you're walking along minding your own business, and then suddenly you just look up and you're seeing into a different world. But it was a fantastic experience, and I was very grateful to have that experience and let them know, hey, I'm in my own timeline. I'm not doing anything I shouldn't, and there's no way I'd do anything that's disrespectful to the land or to the Aboriginal people, because as far as I'm concerned, they're very spiritual people, and you don't do anything to disrespect spirit or the land, or as Aboriginal people say, country. You don't disrespect country. So I'm one of these people, I like to look, but I don't want to disturb anything. So I might sort of take a picture of a flower, maybe turn it over a little bit so I can get a good angle with the camera. That's as far as it goes with me, because I'm fully aware and respect country. So, but it was such a fantastic experience, and I was just over the moon having this experience, and I never cease to be really excited and over the moon whenever I have an experience like that at any given time. But when I get back home, quickly got to the computer and sent an email to the people at the Botanical Gardens to say, wow, I had a fantastic experience today, and told them all about what I had experienced, and they were blown away. Quickly responded to me as soon as they got the email. They're like, oh wow, that's fantastic. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of people that have that ability. Some people might not actually realise what they're saying. They might think it's just a daydream. No, that's you seeing between timelines. So but it was a fantastic experience, and I hope to have an experience again like that next time I'm up there. So, but you never know. Sometimes it was to do with energy. The frequency that my mind is on at the time when I'm there. If I was thinking of things, maybe feeling a bit down, that wouldn't come through. I wouldn't be able to see or hear anything. So you have to be sort of open-minded, relaxed, nothing on your mind, and then the information will come through. My dog's down there snoring. She's quite old now. I don't know if it's coming through on this until after I've done the video, but she takes after Mummy. So when she goes to sleep, she snores. It's so cute. Anyhow, I'm going to go now, and I'll come back with another video shortly. I was hoping to get another one in sooner than this, but sometimes life happens. So when I get the chance, I'll make another little video, and I'll have to go through my little folder that I've got here to work out what I want to talk about on the video. But I'm trying to keep them small. I don't want to really make something that's half an hour to an hour, and this is 23 minutes so far. So give a Libra a camera or a microphone, and you can't shut them up. That's it. Okay, I'll talk to you next time, and be good to each other. Lots of love from Auntie Alex. Bye bye.